I've made this point before. In fact, in a sense, I've done this video before, multiple times, as a matter of fact. And it is a tragedy that I have to post it on Patreon, as opposed to putting it out there for all the world to watch. Because it's the taboo subject. People are not equal. In the West, we have this illusion that people are equal. That one person, another person, we're all the same. We're all the same. And this gives the justification for equal rights under the law. Equal rights and equal obligations. Now, this is all good and fine, but in our daily lives, in our social lives, in our interactions with our fellow human beings, the fact is we're not equal. We're not equal by a long shot. And come on, you know it. Yeah, I mean, how many times have you been talking to some guy and after like 2 minutes you realize that he's a fucking idiot? Yeah, I mean, just a total retard. And he's a nice guy. I mean, nothing against him personally, but he's just got low IQ points. Just as when you were like, I don't know, in grade school or whatever the hell, right? You ran faster than the other kids and maybe some other kid ran faster than you. It's the way of the world. We are unequal and some of us are better at different things than other people. And this is a natural state of affairs. Yeah, I mean, come on. There are guys who run faster than you. There are guys who jump higher than you. There are guys who are smarter than you. There are guys who can drink more booze than you. And there are guys who are dumber than you, who can't jump as high as you, who can't run as fast as you, and can't drink as much as you. We all know this. We all know this. But here comes the terrible, terrible, terrible part. See? Just as we realize that people are different, we realize that groups of people are also different. And that's where things get awfully tricky now, don't they? Yeah, because we recognize that different groups of people, different races, they are different. They are different in their average. It's not to say that one race of people has all of one quality and another race of people has all of some other quality. No, 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 it's a spectrum. It's a normal distribution pattern. But the thing is, see, these normal distribution patterns, you know, the typical bell curve, you know, they're shifted around with different races. And some people, or let me phrase that, some groups of people, let's leave it at that. Some groups of people, on average, are better or worse at different qualities. And we know this for a fact. We see it all the time. Yeah, I lived in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, right? The Dutch people are lovely people. They're tall. They're surprisingly tall. Yeah, they're just very tall. I have no idea why. I'm sure that there's an explanation, genetics, whatever the reason. It doesn't matter the cause of it. The fact is, Dutch people are very tall. I mean, it was very typical of me to see a woman who was 6 feet tall. And guys who were 6'3", 6'4", oh yeah, dime a dozen in Amsterdam, in Holland. Yeah, walk around in any Dutch street and you'll find tall people. The ethnic Dutch people, they're tall, just as the ethnic Vietnamese people are short. I don't know why, but it's true. Most Vietnamese people that you will come across, in fact, every single Vietnamese person or person of Vietnamese descent that I've ever met, not a one is going to be over 6 feet tall. And the women, a lot of them are barely crossing the 5 feet tall marker. This is a fact. I'm not making it up. It's an obvious observation. And this obvious observation, see, it's okay when you talk about it in certain things, and it's okay when you talk about it in other things, but in certain things, ooh, you better not talk about it. You better not even mention it. You better even pretend not to notice it. Oh no, you notice it, you're gonna get in trouble. And so here's the point of this video. See, you have to notice these differences. You can't be blind to them. What are stereotypes? What are stereotypes? A stereotype is an inductive inference. That's what it is. That is an inference, a logical conclusion that has been arrived at via experience. In the past, you know, hundreds of years ago, before people realized that the earth revolves around the sun, people didn't understand why the sun would rise up every day, would rise up in the east and set in the west. They didn't know why, but it was, and it happened all the time. And so they had this stereotypical belief that the sun would rise in the east and set in the west. Well, this was an inductive inference, a logical conclusion arrived at by experience, because thousands and thousands and tens and thousands of days had passed, and it was always the same. The sun would rise in the east and set in the west. And you could actually predict it after a while. See, that's an inductive inference. And we human beings are past masters at making inductive inferences. And we need these inductive inferences in order to survive. In our past, if we came across somebody who didn't look like us, we would assume that it's a competing tribe that might want to kill us. Not kill us because they particularly dislike us or hate us for some reason. No, just because we might happen to have resources that they want. And so whenever we would come across somebody who looked different, i.e. their facial characteristics, their skin color, whatnot, were different than our own, our knee-jerk reaction was not to say, "Hi, how's it going?" No. Our knee-jerk reaction was to either run or try to kill them. And this now is called xenophobia. But it's hardwired into us, and for very, very good evolutionary reasons. Stereotypical behavior of one group or another is just inductive inferences, experience. You have perceived something or some group of people acting in certain ways, and you've perceived it so many times that you can predict that the next iteration of a particular group of people is going to be a certain way. And therefore, you can predict them and you can anticipate what they might or might not do. And this is essential to your survival. People are not equal. People are different. And different groups of people, they have different qualities. And that's a fact. And so it pays you to realize this, and it pays you to go against the established opinion. Because the established opinion is, no stereotypes. Don't ever stereotype, which is absurd. Because we always stereotype. I broke my hand back in December, right? I broke this hand, this wrist. Right? Went to the hospital. I went to the hospital and I walked in, cradling my wrist because it hurt like a son of a bitch. I cradle in my wrist and I walk in, and this random woman appeared. She's got a white lab coat. She's literally got a stethoscope in her pocket of her white lab coat. And she's wearing these very comfortable shoes, right? And she just looks at me, right? And I go straight at her. And I say, "Doctor, I need help with my wrist." What did I do? I stereotyped her. Yeah, because she was, tidily put together, very little makeup, hair pulled back, white lab coat, stethoscope in her pocket. I didn't even look at the badge hanging from her pocket, right? Because I figured out she's a doctor, because she looked stereotypically like a doctor. And guess what? She was a doctor. Yeah, I was stereotyping. I stereotyped this woman. And I stereotyped her as a doctor, and lo and behold, she was a doctor. Most of the times, most of the stereotypes you make are fundamentally accurate. And our society, for political reasons, wants you to pretend that this is not the case. Ask yourself how many times you've been in some situation where you've come across a person and you have no idea who they are, but certain clues about how they dress, how they behave, and you can anticipate who they are. You can guess with very high accuracy who they are and what they will do. I'm not talking about anything untoward, okay? I'm talking about you go to a Starbucks and you see somebody in a green cap and a blue shirt and a green apron. Who do you think that's going to be? You think that's going to be Santa Claus? You think that's going to be Joe Biden? No, it's going to be a barista ready to serve you a coffee if you ask them politely. Yeah, we stereotype all the time, and our stereotypes are accurate. And that's the problem. That's the problem. The problem is that our stereotypes are accurate, and different groups of people tend to act in certain ways. Not every person of any particular group. There are lots of people walking around with white lab coats and stethoscopes in their pockets who are not doctors. They're crazy people pretending to be doctors. That happens all the time, yeah? But how many are they? Not that many. Your stereotype, your inductive inference, most often is true. You have to understand this. more often than not, you're right. And therefore, use this ability. Use this ability. Hone it. Perfect it. Think in terms of the people that you encounter in stereotypical terms. Think, how do they match a particular stereotype? What is a quality that I can perceive that, upon knowing them, matches to some inherent quality that I cannot perceive? You'll find this in physiognomy, that is, the study of people's faces. A lot of times, certain people have certain facial features, and later you realize, because of their behavior, that they act certain ways. And people that have these certain facial features, I'm not talking about race, by the way. I'm talking about just a look to them. You know, they have like a deep frown line in the middle, and just a ratty, ugly face like that, or maybe they're like smiling and whatever. But whatever it is, see, you'll notice that people with certain facial expressions, certain facial features, they tend to be a certain way. And you can measure this internally, you can see it, you can collect this data for your own private little database. And you have to use this private little database. I did a consult the other day. This guy, he was telling me about some woman he'd met, and he was dating her, but he said that she had certain, she had a certain feel to her, like a facial or something, and he thought rather that she was a little bit dodgy, a little bit sketchy, right? And I told him, well, if you feel that, if you got this weird gut feeling, it's probably your hindbrain hitting you with a stereotype. Probably you have forgotten that you met somebody with some quality that was similar. And because of this similar quality, this new person is reminding you of that quality in the past, and that person who had that quality turned out to be not a happy person for your life. I told him that. And we moved on and talked about other stuff. But later, he sent me a follow-up email. And he said that he had remembered what the two women had in common, because there was a woman in his past that he had forgotten about, somebody in junior high. And the woman he was seeing now had a similar quality. And lo and behold, this woman with a similar quality, she was just as sketchy as the girl he'd known back in junior high. And see, that's what happens. And it's true, and it works. Do you know how I know it works? Because we've survived. Yeah. I mean, you who are watching me, you who are alive now, presumably. Well, who are you? You are the descendant of all the people who came before you who survived. You see on National Geographic, they have these shows about they found some graveyard of some people from thousands and thousands of years ago, and they had small children buried, and it's all very tragic, right? But those small children who died, they didn't leave any descendants now, did they? But you, who do you descend from? All the people who successfully survived and reproduced. And therefore, you who have this stereotyping machine in your head, you who have this ability to make inferences about the world around you, well, it helped you to survive. That's why you're around. So don't ignore those feelings you get, those irrational feelings. Analyze them. Try to figure out where they come from, because they usually come from a source. Try to figure out what that source is, what that past example was that makes you perhaps suspicious of someone, or perhaps on the contrary, it makes you, very happy to see someone, even though you've never met them before in your life. And you're like, why do I like this person so much? I've never met them before. What do they have? What quality do they have that makes me light up? And I'm not talking about a romantic, sexual sense. I'm talking about, you can meet some guy, and you have no sexual interest in the guy whatsoever, but you think he's a great guy, and you want to hang out with him, and you think that he's aces, right? But you don't really know him, but you feel that. Analyze it. You'll notice, for the most part, that it comes from some previous encounter with somebody who had very similar qualities. And those very similar qualities, you see them in this new person. And because of it, you like them very much. And by the same token, you can meet a new person and have a very negative feeling towards them. And you wonder why. Well, ask yourself, what quality do they share with someone in your past that you had a bad experience with. And it could be that this person that you're meeting now, it doesn't have that quality at all. It could very well be the case. Because see, stereotypes are not always 100% accurate. They are more accurate than not, but not foolproof. And it could be that you meet some new person who shares a quality of somebody else that you knew in the past and you didn't like them. Well, what you have to do is just sort of like continue the encounter, guarding yourself against the potential danger that befell you with the previous encounter, but trying to keep an open mind with this new person. But be aware, understand what's going on, and don't fall for this bullshit that, oh, we're all equal. Because we're not. We're not all equal at all. It's our differences that make us a viable species, after all. Diversity is our strength, and that's the truth. But at the same time, you can't just be blind to reality.